like to create a new playground. Today we will be learning about optionals and then functions of Swift and switch statement and so on. Let's get started now. Swift May 6th. Next playground. Can you all see my screen? Hello? Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right then. So, okay, what are Swift optionals? Did you guys do some research on optionals I told you to do yesterday? What are Swift optionals? And why do we need them? Well, Swift optionals are either is used whether to check if a variable holds a value or not. It's like gift box. Like it's like a gift box which wraps the value inside, and like in real box, optional can either contain something or it can be empty. Like if you get a gift from someone, then it can be empty or it has something in it. It may have something in it. Likewise, in Swift also, whenever we declare a variable, it can actually hold a value or it might not hold a value. Like in this example, I'm going to explain it. And like I'm going to declare, and this is an optional integer declaration. Well, it is of type int, and this question mark actually over here is of optional type. Yesterday we just declared int only, but whenever we keep this question mark or this exclamation mark after this data type, then it is of optional type. Now let's declare it as optional type. Now let's declare a string as well. This is an optional string declaration var optional string. This is actually the same, but its data type is only the difference. This is optional integer declaration, and this is string declaration. Both are of type optionals. So actually we can do like this. This is equivalent. Okay, let's do like this. Where optional string of type string what these two are quite equivalent to each other. If whenever we keep default value as nil, then this is optional. Declaring this and this is of equivalent type. This is equivalent. This is equivalent to the top one. Either we can declare using that or this one. to, this is actually equivalent to this one. So let me give you an example. Where my string of type string or equals to nil. So if my string is, so we are using if else statement to check if my string is empty or not. My string is equal to nil. If it's nil, then we are going to print my string is nil, is empty. Else print my string is not empty. Yeah, it seems that my string is not empty. We have already declared a nil type. We can actually give here so it holds some value, so my string is not empty. So it's printed over here that my string is not empty, and it's in console as well, you can see it. So we can actually force unwrap the optionals. Why do we need to force unwrap the optionals? I'm going to tell you by example. So whenever if you define a variable as optional, then to get the value from this variable, you will have to unwrap it. This means putting an exclamation mark at the end of the variable, like in this example. I'm explaining it. Explain force unwrap bar optional string of type string equals to, you can actually do like this or this, I love Swift, or you can actually do like this, or you can simply you say command X and keep over here. It's the same thing. Okay, now if optional string is not equal to nil, then print optional string, else print empty. Now here you can see that it's there is a keyword optional, so we have to get rid of this optional keyword, so we are doing this force unwrapping. Here also you can see the keyword optional, so in order to get rid of this optional keyword, we have to keep the exclamation mark at the end of the variable optional string. Now you can see that the optional keyword is removed. This is how we do the force unwrapping. Are you all clear about it? Okay, next move on to the automatic unwrap, or next example of optional. Automatic unwrap. Automatic unwrap. You can declare optional variables using exclamation mark instead of question mark. This is actually, you can do like this, then yeah, you can actually get rid of this. If you we were using this question mark before, but if you simply declare the variable as the optional exclamation with an exclamation mark, then there won't be printed optional keyword like this. But that's not a pretty cool way to do that, so we are doing like this. So in this example, I'm going to show you how to do it. Same thing, I'm gonna copy and paste it. And shift programming. And then use this. This is the automatic unwrap process. Same declaration, okay. Redeclaration of the same variable. It's giving me error. Now, so the difference between this force unwrap and automatic unwrap is only that in this one we have used the question mark, and in this one we have used the exclamation mark. So whenever we use this question mark, we have to write this exclamation mark at the end of the variable, but whenever we use this exclamation mark while declaring the data type, then we don't have to give exclamation mark over here. So I hope you got it. Now let's move on to the next one, optional binding. Optional binding can be done in two ways, like using iflet or ifguard. I'm going to explain about the iflet while I have given you an assignment of the guardlet. So optional binding. Use optional binding to find out whether an option contains a value, and if so, to make that value available temporary as a temporary constant or variable. Now let's clarify this by an example. An optional binding using iflet. This is an example. So where some optional of type string, let's so is awesome. Now if late, now I have to give some name new variable here, new optional equals to sum optional. This actually holds the value of this one. As you can see, this holds the value of this one. You can see that in this sum optional holds the same value of this one. Now print the string has new optional. In this one also you won't see the optional keyword, but if we simply get the sum optional, simply print this sum optional, then okay, this is it. You can either get rid of this if you don't have to get the this else statement, then you don't have to write this. You don't if you don't have any else condition, then you actually don't have to write this and avoid this else statement. If you don't have any else condition. Okay, this is it. This is how we do the optional binding using if let. This sum optional holds the same value of this one, and we have created a new optional using if let, so that we can get rid of this optional keyword. Now let's move on to the switch statement of Swift. Switch. Okay.
So over there, are you assigning some optional to new optional, or are they comparing each other?
No, I'm actually assigning the sum optional to the new optional, so that I wouldn't get that optional keyword. I have shown you that before.
Right.
Like,
so you're just
yeah,
unwrapping.
yeah. Here I have written user. I have written here the definition so that it will be easier. Later on, I will give you this file as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the switch statement. I will be providing you this playground file of each class, so you don't have to worry about it. So you can ask me any questions if you have. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to switch statement. First of all, uh, what is this switch? Why do we need this? I'm going to explain that. For a small number of logical evaluation, we can just use if-else statement. But unfortunately, if we have more than 2 or 3 possible cases or scenario, then we can just use the switch statement, so that we can get rid of time-consuming codes and difficult codes which are really tedious to read. So we will be using switch statement for this. This switch statement is basically like pretty much similar to the C and C++ switch statement, but we don't use break. The only difference is we don't use break in the switch statement in Swift. Actually, Swift automatically recognize the code has to break to go to the next case. I'll explain it. So here, switch, I'm going to switch this value. So if it's bracket and then case 0, print case 0, case 1, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, and last one case 5. Case 3, if it's a case 3 then print 3, if it's of case 4 then 4. Command A and Control I. Well, if you have to, by default you can do the code, what to say, okay, what is the error where its value case build. Okay, I missed the default case, so it's giving me an error. Default case. If it's an default case, then print integer out of range. So here the value is 4, so this one is printed over here. So we have cased if we check this value, if it's 0, 1 or 2, if it's 0, 1, 2 or 3 or 4, so it's 4, so it's printed over here 4. So similarly, if we print 10, here is no cases for number 10, so it goes to the default and prints index out of range. So similarly, if you have the three similar cases for 3 cases, then you can actually do like this. Case 0, 0 to 2. If it's the same case, then you can actually do like this, print 0, 1, 2. In Swift, we don't have to write break statement after each and every code like we used to do in C or C++. like we used to write break after each case, if you remember then. But in Swift you don't have to do like this. So basically if cases 0 and 0 to 2 are similar cases, then you can actually do like this. Or if it's different one, then you can actually create the case for each one of it. So let's move on to the functions. Do you have any question regarding this switch statement?
I have a small question.
Okay, go on.
Remember, you still have a continue statement with a break while continue also in that case in C++. Do Swift have anything like that, something like continue?
Yeah, that continue and break statement, we don't have to use the break statement. Continue, we can do it using a while statement, or so in switch statement also we can use it. But I have given you an assignment for that. You need to do pretty
Okay,
research on that one. I
all
won't be
right.
explaining it. So okay, is that all right with you? Okay, let's move on to the methods now. Methods are functions, same thing. In Swift, a function is defined by a keyword func like this. When a function is newly defined, it may take one or several input parameters to the function, and it will process the functions in the main body and pass back the values to the functions at output return types. Let's see the syntax first. Syntax for this. Now it's here it's a function and function name, parameters, and return type. This is the function body. So in Swift, and this is how we declare a function within function keyword and then function name, and here we write the parameters, and then here is the return type. Now let's get a quick example of this. Example. Okay. Now I'm going to write a function to get the student's name. Get student's name. Well, it has now it's the function name, and then I'm going to give a parameter as name. What is it? Name of type string. Data type is string, and it will return a value of type string. So here is the function that I have written with the name get student's name, and then with a parameter name, and it is of type string, and it will also return a string type. Okay, return. So we have to return name. Print get student name. Student name. Let's say, let's give a name. Okay, here you can see that Vivek is printed. We have called a function. We have called this function over here, and then Vivek is printed. So let's go to the types of functions. Parameters, first one, parameters and functions with parameters and return type. And I'm going to give you a nice example of function which will have parameters and return type as well. This is the quite similar one. This one also has the parameter and return type similarly. Next example. Now I'm going to write the function to add two numbers. Add numbers. First one, let's give an a of type int, b of type int, and it will return a value type int. Return a plus b. So whenever we call this function add numbers, so 12, 10, 3, so it's going to print 15. So this is a function which has parameters as well as return type. These are the parameters and this is the return type. So next one, next type of functions. Functions with, without return type. It's actually same to the C++ and C, but only writing codes, parameters, we used to write not like this, so writing is only the difference, otherwise it's all the same function types are. Function, so we're going to do the addition, but without return type. This time we won't be returning any values. So a of type int and next variable of type int, and this won't have return type, so print let add equals to a plus b. So whenever we call this function addition and we add two numbers 12 and 3, it's also going to print the same, but this time we don't have a return type over here, so it's also printed the same number 15, but this time we don't have return type. In the previous one we had a return type. That's the only difference between these two function types. Now let's move on to the next type of functions. Third one, functions without parameters. Function, give name, Now in this one you can see that there is no parameters, but however this one has got a return type string. There is no parameter, but it has a return type. Return, let's name user. Then whenever we call this get name function, it will print user. See, my Xcode are behind. See, here it's printed pusa. Now you can see. Now let's move on to the last one, a function type. That is the fourth one, function without parameters. And return type. This function doesn't have any parameter, nor does it has a return type. Return, simply you can return print, simply you can print the give nice name over here. And whenever we call this function, then it's going to print the name. So you can see over here, so you can see it's the name is printed. So basically there are four types of functions, function with parameter and return type. This one has parameter and return type, and then next one, this one without return type. This has parameter but it doesn't have a return type, and next one without parameter but with a return type. This one has a return type, a string, but it doesn't have any parameter. So, and last one, it doesn't have any parameters as well as return type. So are we clear? So are you clear over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
Let's
a little curiosity. I heard that Swift has a function that helps us return two values instead of just returning int. It can return int and an int. Is that true? Well, I don't know for sure. I heard that.
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it once?
So you know how normally in C++ you can only return one value, right? Integer, let's say there's pusa, right? Integer pusa or something. But I heard in Swift you can return two values.
Like you say that this type of data type, different data type.
Yeah,
you can actually do that.
Yeah, for instance, the first one you return an integer.
Can I change this one? Okay, I would like to change in this one. Okay, string. Okay. Then I would like to modify this one. Let's give a name. Okay, here we go. It's giving me error. Add numbers. Addition. Add numbers, no addition. Addition 3, and then did you get an answer? Yeah, it can actually have one is of type int and the second one is type string, and similarly you can do for bool type. See, then bool type can actually have many parameters as long as you want. Bool type and then C, C, and then return value true. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to this closer. Swift closures are similar to blocks in C and Objective-C. Closures are usually enclosed in the curly braces like this curly braces, and are defined by a function type like this. Curly braces and function type. Sorry, where it is separated by this type of. Let's move on to the syntax, then you will be quite clear about it. Syntax. Parameters. Then it has a return type. Int statements. Now I'm giving an example. Function to add two numbers or divide something like that. Function to add two numbers. Sorry, let's give a division. Addition we have already done. Function to divide two numbers. Function division. Let's get two variables of type int. Return a divided by b. Now when we call this function division, 6 divided by 2. Let's give me an error. Okay, here is the output. This is the function. This is not actually closer. This is the same way like we have done the addition over here. This is the same way, but how we do it in closer way. Let's see. Make it sorter using closer way. Example. Let divide using closer. And here we are going to give the parameter type. These are both of type int, and then going to give the return type. This is also of type int equals to a comma b and return a divided by b. So divide using cursor. 6 divide on 2. So here we can actually see that closer is a block of code that runs and returns a value without the keyword func. Like in function we have to declare the keyword func, but in closer we don't have to use this keyword func. It's the difference, and it's quite easier and shorter. So in order to give and get a brief knowledge about this closer, you have to know about the functions beforehand. So please learn about these functions first.
So
Another,
Devashri, um,
okay.
so for the closer, we declare. I mean, we pretty much declare that as a divide using closer as a variable. So is that a variable?
Yeah, you can say that.
That's it. And it doesn't have a type, does it? Because it's a function too.
It doesn't have a type, but you don't have to use the keyword function, but it gets the same result. You are getting the same result, so it's quite similar to the function, but it's a shorter way. That's it.
But it's a kind of variable.
Yeah,
It's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
variable.
Yeah, it's kind of variable, like stored and computed variables. You have to
Yeah.
do the resource on that. Computed
Okay.
and
Thanks.
there are computed and stored variables properties in Swift, so you can resource on it.
Computed and stored variables. Huh?
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
If you do the assignments, then you will have a brief knowledge on it. I have given the questions regarding all this. Okay. Now let's move on to the another example. I hope you will be cleared with this closer by this another example. Now let's move on to the next one. In traditional way, uh, from let's make an function type function. Let's make a function named hello, and it returns a string. So return some string. So when we call this hello function, it will print some string. This is the traditional way, but in closer way, how we do it is closer way. Let's do this in the closer way. So with closer, where hello with closer, and string. Return hello, my name is hello. My name is hello. So if we print this hello with closer, you can actually see the difference between this. Now here we have these two brackets. In order to call this function, we have this braces at the end of it, but whenever we call a closer, we don't have to use that braces. And another thing, in this closer way and this previous one, it's different one. Actually, in this one we have got the parameters, but in this one we don't have the parameters. It only have a return type. Hope you are clear with this. So we are moving on to the object-oriented programming, OOP. Let's get started with the structure. So I'm not going to give you the definition about what is a structure and all, but I'm going to do what it does. So I'm going to tell you what it does. It's fine. I hope it's fine with you. The termination. I would like to copy paste the dictionary from the previous code. Okay. Never mind. Let's type it. I'm going to create a dictionary. Create a dictionary having of type Dalmatian, and it has got properties like color, eyes black, and next one weight, $125, and next lifespan. Lifespan 12 years, more than that, I guess. Honor the breed of dog, Dom Zephyr. And next breed, what, Labrador. Dog. Okay, now here we have created a dictionary of dogs. This is the breed of the dog, so we are going to create a structure now. Stock with the keyword stock, we can actually create one stock of dogs. Okay, var number of legs of type int, var name of type string, var has tail of type bool. So we have created a structure of type dog, and it has properties like name, number of legs, name, and has tail. These are the properties of this dog structure, and we are going to access. So let's see how we access the properties of a structure. So we are going to create an object so you can see here the properties. Number of leagues for name, name Bruno has tell true. So whenever we want to get the properties of dog, then we can access like this, dog dot has till, then it's going to print you true. Here you can see. Similarly, you can do for number of leagues, and then number of leagues and Bruno name. Similarly, you can do this. This Bruno actually is called an object or instance of this structure. This Bruno actually is the object, is called an object or instance of this structure. These are the properties. Let's write this. These are the properties. So now similarly you can create another one, like another object. Let's name it Blackie postal dog, and you can number of leagues 4, name Blackie. In similar way, you can access the properties like this: number of legs,